Hey guys, Donovan Myers here, back from the dead with a brand new how-to video. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Phreak Mods Cerberus, and we'll be installing it into a TE, in this case a brand new Soul Caliber TE stick. So let's get to it. So a quick overview of the Cerberus PCB before we begin. This is the standard edition that has these female connectors on the bottom here. There's also a partial connector version that doesn't have these. These basically connect to the stock Xbox 360 PCB. So if you're doing a complete custom joystick mod, you don't need those. So you can save about $10 by ordering the partial connector version. Another thing you can do here too is cut out this, where you see this white line, and use just this PCB in the middle and solder all your connections to it if you're doing a completely custom install. And we'll be looking at that in my second video on the Cerberus. But for this one we're going to just put it into a stock Mad Catz TE stick. It sits right on top of the Xbox 360 PCB, and all of the connectors that we're going to that then go through here to pass through. The same thing goes for the USB. This is a completely solderless mod. All you do is cut back about 6 inches on the stock USB harness, hook one end, that end into this so it's going from the Xbox 360 PCB into this PCB here, and then the USB wire that's coming into the stick comes in here. What that does is brings the first USB connection to the Cerberus. It decides, are you a PS3 or are you an Xbox 360? If it's an Xbox 360, it just passes the USB data connection to the 360 stick PCB. Otherwise, it handles all the PCB for PS3. This is very similar to other dual mods like Chimp. So now that we have the overview out of the way, let's crack open the stick and get started. So of course the first thing we need to do is remove the top 6 bolts on the stick. Okay, with the 6 bolts removed, I now have this open, and what I'm going to do is just put a mark on the joystick connector there so that I know which side goes out. Sometimes those get flipped around and I just want to make sure I get it back in the right position. To make this easier to work in, I'm going to disconnect all of the buttons and the stick. If you have a hard time getting these off, if you just use a small flathead screwdriver, put it between the connector and the base here and twist. Makes it a lot easier to get these off. You'll save yourself your wrist and scratching up other parts of your stick from the vibration. So the next step here is to disconnect these 6 harnesses that are on the stock Xbox 360 PCB. You can see here maybe on the Cerberus along the edges there by my thumb, 1, 2, across the top, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I'm going to do is pull these off and at the same time use that same Sharpie I used to mark this joystick connector to mark all of those connectors 1 through 6 so that I know which slot they go into. Okay, this guy on the side here is the microphone up front. I'm just going to disconnect it to get it out of the way for now. It doesn't need to be labeled, we know what it is. Okay, so the next step is to take this USB cable here and cut it so that we can hook it up to the Cerberus. This ferrite washer, I don't know what this thing's called, is going to need to move, and the easiest way to do that is to open this up so we have room to pull the cable back in a little bit more and cut off these zip ties and stuff. So I'm going to do that next. You want to be careful that you're not tugging too hard down here, that it's going to pull the soldered connections for the USB off of the stock Xbox 360 PCB. So it's long enough now. This bend right here is my 6-inch mark, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this. Okay, so what we want to do is measure back about 1 inch and pull off the black jacket, but leave the 4 wires in here alone. Don't strip those. One thing you want to be careful of is to not cut through those wires as you're stripping this outside jacket. You might want to use wire strippers. I'm going to see if I have a set that'll work. Otherwise, just be really careful with your scissors. Okay, so I didn't have any wire strippers, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to do this carefully. Okay, so what you can see here, we have kind of like a copper woven shielding around this. You can pull that back. You eventually want to trim that off real nice. Same thing goes for this foil paper and all of this, whatever this fuzz is, they like to stick in here. So you get these 4 wires out, they look good. I'm just going to trim all this up and do the exact same thing for the other end. So you'll notice that some of the copper braiding fell down into my stick here. I'm going to want to blow that out or vacuum it out, because if it were to land on this exposed PCB here, it could cause some shorts and give me some issues. So if you do like me and get a little messy with it, you're going to want to make sure that you clean this out so you don't have that happen to you. Alright, so I'm going to be a little anal and use this electrical tape to go over the exposed shielding here. If I had heat shrink tubing, I might use that instead. Okay, that's it. You don't even need to expose the ends on this. The connectors on the Cerberus here kind of slice into the cable for you. If you've ever built an Ethernet cable, it's a very similar process. So you just need to lift up these little connectors. The one that's coming from the Xbox PCB goes into the bottom here. So you just need to shove them in far enough that you can see the wires in the little windows across the top here, and then just push down. And you'll feel a little click and you can tell that it's in there. Okay, so the 360 is connected. I'm just going to connect the USB out in here, exact same way. Okay, so the USB connection is now reestablished. I'm just going to place the PCB in place over the Xbox 360 PCB and connect up all the ribbon cables. Okay, so the Cerberus is in. The next step really is to zip tie some of this stuff together and then put the top panel on. Okay, and there was a zip tie holding that, the wire around that piece right there, so I've got it pretty much how it was. So I just need to cut these off and connect everything back up. One thing I forgot to note, when you're using this sole caliber stick, you actually need to remove this screw right here because it ends up getting in the way of that. All the other 3 screws can stay and this stuff is fine. You just need to take that one screw out. Before I go ahead and put the bolts back in, I'm going to hook this up to a PC and make sure everything was connected properly. Okay, so I have the control panel open here, and I'm going to go to View Devices and Printers. And I will plug in my stick. And you can see here it just popped up, so I'll go to Game Controller Settings and then hit Properties. You'll also want to test the Xbox 360 when you're doing this on the PC as well. And so to trigger Xbox 360 mode, you just need to hold down the low punch or the X button and plug in the stick. And you can probably see here it showed up as the Soul Calibur 5 Fightstick TE. I'll just go to Game Controller Settings and then Properties. I have all of the directions. Start and select are working. All the face buttons work. There's everything lit up. So that way you can make sure that your stick is working both in PC PS3 mode and Xbox 360 mode. Screw the 6 top bolts back in, and this mod is now done. In the next video, we're going to take a look at installing the Cerberus into a custom stick. Stop looking at the